Well, a bit different format today. I haven't got time to sit down and write something down, but I thought I would let you know what happened to me on Saturday when I went to the lockdown protest demo in Trafalgar Square, and then ultimately outside Downing Street. I didn't actually know that the protest was on until I saw it on Twitter in the morning, and I had a little spat with Mrs. X, so I thought I'd go out and I would go to the demo, and I went up there, met some nice people, and was talking to people really rather than listening to the speakers. But you know, I wanted to be there for obvious reasons, and but it turned into a march. We went down Whitehall and ended up outside Downing Street, and the old Bill had been itching for some action all day, or at least all the time I was there, trying to get round behind the stage and disconnect the speakers, and they were prevented from doing so a couple of times, which is quite good, by the people who were there. And but then it turned into a march, and we marched down Whitehall and ended up outside Downing Street, and then the riot police came out, all the guys with the helmets, and then the horses, they trotted the horses out, so to speak, and then they started going through the crowd saying to disperse people, and telling us that we were going to be arrested. And I just made a decision that I wasn't going to move, and I didn't move, and I was roughed up a bit by the police, and not seriously, but then was told again that I had to move, and if I didn't move I'll be arrested. So I didn't move, and then I was pounced on by half a dozen coppers who wrestled me to the ground. I was handcuffed, and then I was put in a paddy wagon, or one of those big vans, and sent to, of all places, Brixton police station. Considering these were London coppers, they didn't seem to know where Brixton was. So, but anyway, we got there, and while I was in the van, one of the coppers there, who was sort of charged with, I suppose, looking after me, delivering me to Brixton, he was asking me questions and trying to make friends with me, and you know, I wasn't in the mood to be making friends, and I answered him in monosyllables, like you do. I mean, he wasn't a bad bloke, you know, and he wasn't, you know, he wasn't being a pig, you know, he was just being a normal bloke. And you know, it was hard not to see him as a human being, you know. And as you know, I've been pretty mean about the police before, and justifiably, as far as I'm concerned. Not only because of the way they've treated the lockdown protesters and the Tommy Robinson protesters and Brexit protesters, in sharp contrast to how they police the Extinction Rebellion bunch and Black Lives Matter, and taking the knee to them. So it's complete double standard. So you know, I've no respect for them at all. But you know, also because now I know this isn't a Met, but I fully I'm fully convinced that if this had happened on the Met patch, it would be the same thing. I'm talking about the grooming gangs, or the Muslim child rape gangs, to give them their correct name. And I was delivered to the police station and searched, had my stuff taken off me. You know, I wasn't treated badly. The desk sergeant in the custody suite, things they call these things, was obviously someone who knew his stuff, and he knew how to get people to relax, you know, and it was an acquired skill, you know, and you know, I'm 52, so I wasn't too worried about it, but you know, if you were 19, you might be. And anyway, so I was taken off to the cell, and the door was shut. And you know, we hear a lot about the police being underfunded and everything, and not having enough money and not enough funds and all the rest of it. But there was nothing wrong with this cell. I mean, it was impregnable. You know, I mean, they did take my belt and they took my shoelaces off me, but there would have been nowhere to hang myself from, you know, if I was a mind to. And I mean, I could have smashed my brains out on all the hard surfaces, but other than that, you know, it was obviously a very well thought out thing. You know, stainless steel bog in the corner, no bog roll, of course, which you might want to think about. I didn't have a shite while I was there, so I didn't have to approach that problem. But they had a thing up in the corner of the ceiling that had the light, and it had looked like it was an infrared light there as well, and of course the obligatory surveillance camera. Very basic bed, and nothing else in the room at all, except for when I lay down on the bunk. On the ceiling was some posters. One of them saying, "If you're reading this, we've got your DNA." And I thought I was going to have my DNA taken, which I didn't want to happen. But you know, it's going to be par for the course. But I hadn't been at that stage, and there was also adverts on the ceiling for talk to an officer about taking other crimes into consideration, and also a telephone number so you could grass up your mates if you was so inclined. But you know, it was a very secure cell. You know, it wasn't dirty, it was clean. But everything in it was designed to make you feel powerless, which I suppose is the nature of a cell. Your basic needs are met and nothing more. And there's no door handle on the door or anything, it's all open from outside. And you know, I did have visions while I was sitting there as if some zombie plague might happen, and then nobody would come and open the door, and you just starve to death in there. There was absolutely no way out. There was a window, but it was opaque glass, so you could only see whether it was day or night, but nothing else. And so I sat there, and I sat there for a few hours. They came in. They did offer me a cup of tea when I turned up, and being an Englishman, I gave in at a cup of tea, with sugar as well, I might add. And then they came in, took orders for dinner. They gave me a long list of things that I could have, like chicken tikka, 2 types of curry, cottage pie, lasagna, some other stuff. There was also probably stuff if you were vegan or Muslim or whatever it was. And I gave them orders. I'll have some cottage pie. Half an hour later, they brought me they bought me a pot of porridge, which I wondered if that was a fuck you joke or not. I think it was probably just a mistake, but I ate it, and they gave me another cup of tea as well, so I was relatively okay. But the whole point of it is that I was in there and I couldn't talk to anybody. I wasn't like in a drunk tank with a load of other people, so I could get any sort of camaraderie from other people who've been arrested or anything like that. No one to talk to. The whole point is to get you on your own, so that you're alone. And you know, I just whiled away the time. And I was thinking, you know, this is a perfect, as a cell, it was perfect. You know, you could, the surveillance camera could see wherever you were. There was kind of a dished mirror on the opposite wall, but with a little frosted bit on it, so that when the screws looked through the hatch in the door, they wouldn't see you on the throne, which I thought was a nice touch. But the people watching from the surveillance camera would be able to see anyway. But I was thinking, this is a perfect cell. It's a Panopticon for one person. And the cop who was talking to me in the van was trying to get my thoughts on, you know, what did I think was wrong, and I didn't talk to him in great detail, but he was saying, well, where would you think would be the place that has the right amount of... I just said that I'd said it was a police state. And he was asking me where I thought would be an example of somewhere that was better, and I just said, well, this country about 30 or 40 years ago. And so while I was in the cell, I was thinking, this is what, you know, the government and the authorities want to turn the whole country into. A panopticon for the entire country. They want to be able to watch everybody all the time, and for the whole population to not know whether it's being watched or not. And of course, when I was in the cell, you know, I didn't know if I was being watched or if I wasn't, which is kind of the bonus of this thing called the Panopticon, because I mean, not that I was about to get up to anything. I couldn't get up to anything in there, but there was this feeling, just like Winston Smith in 1984, when he's got a telly screen on the wall. You know, he knows that he can be watched at any time, but he doesn't know when. But it's completely easy, the easiest thing in the world for them to watch him. And you know, this is what they're trying to turn the entire country and the entire world into. A place where there are no dark spaces at all. There is nowhere for you to hide. Because there will always be a camera or a sensor or an automatic number plate recognition camera or your mobile phone signal to always tell them where you are. So there will be no mystery to where you are, ever. And that's what they want. The total and complete elimination of anonymity, privacy and liberty. Now, I'm getting paint all over my hand now. So I have to do this. I got arrested last night, so I'm in the bad books. So this is already overdue. So this has to be done. So you've got to sit there and watch me do it. Now this is only primer, so if there's any painters and decorators out there, just keep it to yourself. And I was thinking that this is what people don't realise. They don't realise that the entirety of society is being turned into a lab experiment. And guess who the rats are? I mean, there was nothing, it was totally safe in that cell. I could come to no harm, unless I decided to bash my brains out, as I said. But it was totally safe. And the coppers were quite, you know, they went through the checklist of saying, was I drunk or was I on drugs or was I about to top myself and all that sort of stuff. You know, they went through all that stuff because to them and to so many people in society, the number one priority is safety. I mean, so some people are so in love with safety that they would live in a padded cell. I mean, this wasn't a padded cell, but you know, you get my drift. So I could come to no harm in there, but it's no place to live. And if I was in prison, I'd have everything done for me. I'd have my meals cooked, I'd have my laundry done, I'd have medical conditions taken care of. If anything, if I got ill with anything, I wouldn't have to think about anything. But that's not life. And of course, while I was in there, because you're on your own, the whole idea is to isolate you. The cell was an expression of their power and my powerlessness. And there's no clock in there. You're not allowed anything in there. You can't take your phone in there. You know, you go in there just with yourself and the clothes you stand up in. So, you know, I mean, if I had a watch, I guess they would have taken that off me. But I don't wear a watch. But, you know, the whole idea is that, you know, and they keep the lights on, so you can't actually tell. I mean, I was in there for 5 hours. And they let me out at 11 o'clock. Now, I should be thankful because the reason, or so they told me, the reason they let me out was because they had so many arrests on the day from what happened in Trafalgar Square, you know, where I wasn't, but I saw the videos of the police charging everybody. So they must have arrested quite a lot of people there. I mean, if that hadn't happened, I might have been in there all night. But the reason I'm telling you this is because this is what we have to look forward to. You know, those of us who are not going to lay down and just accept this lockdown and accept the removal of our freedoms are often going to have to pay with our own personal freedoms. Now, you know, I was fine in there, but I can imagine if there'd been somebody who'd never been in a situation like that, you know, and was much younger, it would have been quite scary. And the idea is to make people so scared that they're afraid of doing that, so we'll just go along with they'll go along with the lockdown, they'll go along with the propaganda, they'll just do what they're told. Now, I mean, I don't think that I didn't strike any blows for freedom or anything. I'm under no illusions that I've done anything like that. But, you know, I just decided when I was was outside Downing Street, that I wasn't going to move, and I didn't see why I should have to move. You know, I kind of hoped that I might have been I might have been arrested with a load of other people, but I wasn't. And of course they probably they took me all the way to Brixton, you know, which seemed like quite a long way. But you know, part of that is because they want you on your own. They asked me if I wanted a solicitor. I didn't think it would be that serious, and I thought if I didn't ask for a solicitor, they might process me more quickly. But after about 3 hours, I said, look, I better have that solicitor. And then just out of the blue, you know, they came along. I mean, I was photographed, but no DNA taken, no fingerprints, which I was quite pleased about. But that almost certainly will happen next time. You know, and of course once they have your DNA, they can use your DNA to fit you up and say you were in all sorts of places where you weren't. You know, they'll tell us there's loads of safeguards, but you know, that means trusting the government's word. And who in their right mind would do that? But you know, considering I was saying what I was saying in my last video about masculinity and about being men, you know, I did try to live up to that, and I tried to, even though it was going to inconvenience me, I just didn't want to give ground. And you know, I'm 52. You know, soon to be 53. You know, and this is a young man's game. And here I am doing it at my age. You know, it's, you know, I mean, you know, my kids have left the home, but you know, I've got a wife, you know, and she's, but the positive side of this is that, you know, they've only got so many cells. And the reason I was let out earlier, if I'm to take them at their word, and I've no reason to doubt them, is that they said they had so many other arrests. And so as it wasn't serious and I hadn't assaulted anybody, they just let me go. Now, I could still be up for £100 fine, you know, and they gave me a sheet of paper to tell me that the case is ongoing. So I'm not out of the woods yet. But, you know, it's just, I'm afraid this is what has to be done. It's part of what has to be done. You know, if we want to defend this society, we're going to have to make some sacrifices. You know, and I mean, I haven't got a criminal record. I mean, I might have now, but I don't think contravention of COVID regulations, I don't think counts as a criminal record. But if that's what it's going to have to be, I guess that's what it's going to have to be. Now, you know, I would like other people to do the same thing. You know, one person defying the police is easy to deal with, but 100 or 1,000 or 10,000 or 100,000, is a different kettle of fish. But I still think some younger blokes ought to be doing some of this. You could think of it as a rite of passage, you know. But anyway, I just thought I'd let you know to give you some idea of what to expect. Anyway, till next time.